We are entering a new age, a digital age, and so that's why we have to make sure that the digital single market is not fragmented, and therefore I think it's necessary that we have a kind of a contract law in place what treats everything a little bit the same.
That was Axel Voss, the EPP Group spokesperson for the Parliament's Legal Affairs Committee, who co-drafted a report about contract law for digital content, speaking about a vote on a new law creating an EU-wide standard set of contract rules for digital content provided by businesses to consumers. As consumers across the EU, we are increasingly downloading or web streaming movies, buying cloud storage, accessing information from social media. But what happens when things go wrong? Say you can't access the digital content or the content damages your computer. Right now, some EU countries have laws covering this sort of thing, while others do not. The law includes rights for consumers to damages and a right of redress if, for example, the provider fails to supply the digital content. Mr. Voss explained how the new law will help consumers and businesses.
For business and consumers, it should be a kind of a clear signal that we would like to have this single market in this area, and a kind of a frame for how to treat the data, how to treat the contract, and what does this mean for redress. The most important point for us as an EPP group is that we will have the first step into the full harmonization issue for contract law.
In the Parliament's Legal Affairs Committee, MEPs also voted on new rules on the use of copyright and related rights for online transmissions and retransmissions of TV and radio programmes. The Commission wants the Copyright Act relevant for the provision of certain online services such as recorded broadcasts only to apply in the EU country where the broadcasting organisation is established, the so-called country of origin principle. Angelika Niebler, who is the EPP Group spokesperson on this issue, explained the dangers of this approach.
We had some difficulties in accepting the proposal from the Commission because it's a one-size-fits-all proposal, and I think this does not be in line, with preserving cultural diversity all over Europe.
Under the Commission's proposal, film producers will be obliged to sell only one licence to show their films to one EU country that will then be valid for all EU countries. Currently, they raise finance to produce their films by selling licences to individual countries under the so-called principle of territoriality. Ms. Niebler explained the consequences of the Commission proposal.
Our fear was that for our European film producers, it's going to be very difficult to get the financing for their films, for their movies. And that's actually what the whole European film industry told us. Please stick to the country, to the principle of territoriality. It's not that we are we are making a film for all over Europe, but we have different cultural habits in France, in Spain, in Poland, in the Netherlands, in Germany, and the outset and the marketing of the movies is different.
In a related development, the European Parliament, European Commission and European Council reached a provisional agreement to end geo-blocking for physical goods and services. Geo-blocking is where consumers are deprived of access to physical goods and services based on their nationality, residence or IP address. It means that in the future, consumers will be able to, for example, buy new electrical goods, rent a car or buy concert tickets, or use their credit card across the EU as easily as they do in their home country. In committee votes, MEPs have approved new rules for both sets of issues. 2 new pieces of EU legislation are expected to be passed when all MEPs have a final vote.